This is the Between Two Firms podcast, episode 13.
Wait a minute. Let's reframe this just one second.
These are good problems to have.
And what we can do with money to help our family over generations.
And working towards my entire career, I decided, you know what, I think I need to do my own thing.
And I'm like, this is awesome.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Nick Kobos, host of the Between Two Firms podcast, and I am joined, as always, by my friend and our showrunner supreme, Matt Nomchik. Matt, how are you, man? How's life?
I'm doing well. We're returning. We're back to the grind.
We are back to the grind. Today is what is it? It's March 23rd, Monday, March 23rd. Yes, the recording date. I think this episode is set to air in less than 48 hours on March 25th, which means when we're done, Matt's got to go edit out all my gaffes and screw ups. But we run a little bit of an unintended hiatus. We were hit by a perfect storm of you were out for a week, I was out for a week, and then
it may have just been
busy season.
May have been some under planning on the side of things. Naturally, this is something that consumes a lot of our human capital, the podcast, and it's fun to do. But it is also not something, at least at this stage or for the foreseeable future, that does anything for like our core.
Is that revenue producing?
Our core revenue.
Right. No, and I like that I said, we were hit by a perfect storm, which made it sound like it was factors outside of our control. Your description, I think, is more appropriate. It was just a failure to plan. We knew. What I did underestimate, I will say, I did underestimate busy season. And just both internally on our end, like, we're busy and it's hard to allocate the time to keep putting these out on a weekly basis. But then also our potential guests are busy. And so it's harder to line guests up during the surprise, during peak busy season. When everybody's out there grinding. So anyway, we will AAR after action review this when we get through busy season.
The pre-episode sort of podcast update is that we're planning to, for the interim period, and we may have already kind of got into this a little bit, but we're going to shift to a bi-weekly format, and then we're going to kind of build up our episode cache.
Our strategic reserve.
Our strategic reserve. And then we'll have that ready to deploy once you get out of the tax season. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so like Matt said, we're hopefully we can kind of clear our backlog and get back to having a healthy stockpile of episodes ready to go. I think that'll get easier as we come out of tax season and our potential guests have more time and are easier to schedule as well. And we hope to return to a weekly cadence, later this spring, early summer. And hopefully once we make our return to weekly, keep it at a weekly.
Yeah. So, now that we have a realistic understanding of
what all this entails,
the whole process, and
yeah. Oh, 100%. Well, cool. I think that that satisfies the requirement for a firm update, right?
We could also, we didn't do a full transition. That was more of a podcast thing.
Okay. Let's hit the people with the firm update, man. Drop a firm update on them. Firm update.
Well, yeah, the firm update is we both took a week off, one after the other, and we also doubled our team size like over that period. So it's like
that is true. We did do that. Yeah, Matt came to me at an inopportune moment and said, "You know what? I've had it. I need a week. I need to take a week." Matt said he needed to take a sabbatical. He said,
you haven't seen me take a sabbatical yet."
Just disappeared. Now, Matt took a week off, and No qualms with it. No qualms with it. It was well deserved, but my sister. I don't know if we talked.
We did talk about this.
We did.
Yeah.
My sister,
and so the story is that about a month and a half ago, just to reiterate, sorry to our many recurring listeners.
Yes, the thousands of you out there who've already heard this.
I told Nick like maybe 2 months before I was planning to do it. I'm planning to take a vacation during this kind of time frame. And then at that point, he said, "Oh, I've already got a vacation plan that I've never mentioned." And so I adjusted my vacation plan.
Objection.
You can hold until the end, but I adjusted my vacation plan to kind of suit his limitations, and then kind of just tried to shoulder the load of things in his absence.
I think it's a generally accurate characterization. I do dispute the vacation. I argue it's not a vacation. I argue that mine was it
was in effect a vacation. You were absent.
It wasn't. I think a family obligation, I think, is a more apt description. It wasn't by choice. I was socially compelled.
It
was fun. I did
quite the sunburn when you came back. It looked like you, you had some.
I did get to go. I did get to go fishing. Yeah, okay, you're right. It was a vacation. I caught my first bluefin tuna.
Wow,
pretty cool. Wait a second. Yeah. Anyway, so, all right. Well,
I think that covers the.
I think we're firm updated.
Yeah.
We didn't. I mean, we could talk about the 2 new team, but that could be next on our next next one. We'll talk about the team on the next one. Okay. Yeah, Matt. Very Matt style to prioritize talking about his vacation over talking about our team members. So.
Well, I think that merits its own sort of dedicated block. If you want to try to compress that.
Good save. I agree. Well, our episode today with Perry Mayer, man, I had a blast. Perry's a cool guy, had a lot of interesting stuff and great points, especially on the bookkeeping side of the business. Didn't realize until towards the end of the episode that he's also on Financial Sense, which is our practice management system. And was kind of kicking myself for it because there were so many questions I would have loved to ask on how they structure things in Financial Sense. But
we were kind of getting back into the rep of doing these podcasts. We had some pre-episode technical challenges, to put it lightly. But yeah, I thought it was still an interesting episode, even if you didn't branch out everywhere you maybe could have. But is it accurate to say at this point in time, we had some interruption that I had to kind of attend to during the podcast, but is it fair to say that at this point in time he's got more of like a flat organizational hierarchy, kind of as opposed to?
I think he's. I mean, that's something we didn't really get the chance to talk about. And I mean, we talked about it indirectly, but he is structured, and I don't want to speak for him. But
what I gathered is it seemed like most of his new team members, he's added a lot recently as well.
All his team
we're
members,
more like direct reports.
All his team members are accounting and like bookkeeping, or production, but like he hasn't hired admin yet, and so that would have been an interesting line of question, or line kind of a like discussion topic of just the thought process behind that and the pros, because I'm sure there's pros in terms of like, I think it's easier. That might not be true. I don't know. Maybe it's easier for accounting folks to do admin than for admin folks to do accounting tasks. I don't know. I guess it depends on what you define as each of those kind of task buckets. But I think that was the major difference in, like, from an org chart perspective, at least, versus how we did it.
They're all in they're in the same department and more focused, but
we've got the same
maybe I missed this part of the discussion, but it did seem like it was more of like they're all sort of directly at this point in time. Obviously, maybe it'll change when the admin's added. They're all direct reports to him, and like he was saying how with his meetings, rather than one kind of big all hands meeting, he'll meet with them individually to kind of attack their assignments.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And I mean, we don't have to give away the whole episode, but it was cool. It was cool comparing notes on a couple topics. Cleanups was a big one that's been top of mind for us, is like thinking through an approach to cleanups versus monthly recurring services.
Yeah.
And then hiring, specifically hiring offshore, which is something that we both recently, both us and Perry have recently gone through.
As well as niching into specific industries, which is something that you know, he's a few steps ahead of us with trying to target, you know, his kind of ideal client.
I mean, he's at least got a higher revenue floor. Yeah. For where he takes them. But no, I mean, overall, like I said, a ton of value. I got a ton of value from chatting with Perry. And hopefully you guys get some value from listening to the discussion as well. I think that
without
does
further
it, right?
ado,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and transition to the episode.
All right, let's do it. All right, we are joined today by our guest, Perry Meyer. Perry's coming to us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Hell yeah. I was down in Cartagena 2 weeks ago, which is not Florida, but tropical vibe. 2 weeks ago for my sister's wedding. We're up in North Carolina, and it was so nice being down in like 80-degree weather. I'm envious. Are you a beach guy or do you fish? Do you have any coastal hobbies?
I do. I'm a beach guy. I can see the beach from my view right now. So we go quite often. So I was there this weekend. The kids love it. We love it. So it's you know, part of living here. That's one of the benefits. That
is pretty nice. I can see a parking lot from our office window, so I would trade that view. That's pretty cool. Well, yeah. So Perry's coming to us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, owner of Vital Accounting Services, and we were actually introduced by Jonathan Tirolosi. So Jonathan was our guest on episode 9, which we will link below. And you and Jonathan are mutual friends. So how did you guys meet? Because Jonathan said it was kind of during, it was like an accounting networking group, or what? How did you guys get connected?
Yeah, we met on a Facebook group for bookkeepers. We were both kind of starting out at our firms at the same time. And I believe I reached out to him because he was posting, you know, some similar questions to me. And I was like, hey, do you want to, you know, have a call and see how we can help each other out? And, you know, that led to having a call almost every week for the last 4 years.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And I mean, that's the whole reason why we're doing this. Is it's so valuable being able to compare notes and just see what's working for other people, what's not. And I think it saves you a lot of heartache when you can just kind of skip through other people's lessons learned and incorporate them for yourself. So, well, cool. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to chatting with you, especially after chat with Jonathan. So this should be fun. Before we get into kind of the ins and outs of the firm and kind of what you're up to, I'd love to kind of know your story and how you got into accounting, and then from accounting into running your own firm.
Yeah, so it was interesting. I went to school for accounting, but I started off as pre-pharmacy and took all of those biology classes and chemistry, and I was like, I cannot do these labs. They're terrible. It's so much work. And I was like, I need to find a new major. So I went down the list, and literally accounting was the first one on the list. And I was like, I took an accounting course in high school, and I was like, I could do accounting. So,
I love it.
Literally signed up and started doing accounting after that. So, you know, went through, did an interesting path compared to most people that get into firms. I went the corporate route. So I started in internal audit, you know, did the Fortune 500 company, went into public accounting for 4 years after that at RSM or McGladrey, whatever it is now. It keeps changing names. But did that route. Absolutely hated public accounting. It was the worst 4 years of my life working. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I went back to internal audit. And then, you know, got the chance to help a startup go public and, you know, implementing SOX controls. And that was really cool. But, you know, I just decided after a while that I was getting burnt out on the public accounting piece and, you know, the grind that it was, and, you know, wanted to look for something different. So about 4 years ago, I made the decision of, you know, I want to start my own company and see where it goes. And, you know, I did it and worked nights and weekends, you know, with clients at first. And last March, actually a year ago last week, you know, went full time into it.
Oh yeah. Congrats on the anniversary. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was taking a look at your background, and you mentioned that you hated public accounting. So was there any hesitation when you decided to go out and do your own thing of like, am I going to go start my own public accounting firm, or what was the thought process there?
Yeah, the thought process is, you know, take the things that I do like and maximize those, and, you know, forget the things that I don't like, and just focus on building something that works best for me. And that's the thing that I found best about this type of business. And, you know, the different things in corporate is you can do whatever it is that you want to do because you're in control now. You can make those decisions. Right. You can pick the type of work you want to do, the type of clients you want to work with. And, you know, that's kind of the biggest deciding factor when you're in the corporate world or in public accounting. It's whatever just gets pushed onto you next. Like that's so where you're at.
That's so true. Yeah. And not to focus on like the negatives, but what were kind of some of those things that when you were working in public, that you didn't like, that now you've had the opportunity to kind of reshape and remold in your own firm?
Yeah. And one of the things that I didn't like is that they kind of, you know, pushed on you to be like a salesperson, bring in business and that aspect of it, which isn't something that I wanted to do at the time. Now it's something that I've, you know, actually learned to do and gotten much better at it than before. You know, I think on top of that was the thing that drove me the most is probably everyone in public is the tracking of hours, and like having to track and put your hours in. You know, I was always on that list of like people that, you know, the naughty list of like, hey, you need to put your hours in. And I try my best to bucketize whatever it is. You know, I started counting hours in the beginning, and then I was like, I can't do this anymore. So we don't track hours in that sense. Like if we have a client that we're being charged, you know, hour, or we don't charge hourly for client, but if we did, like that would be the only instance we would ever track hours again.
Gotcha. So you don't do any time tracking right now, aside from if you have something that's billable.
No,
right, which you try to avoid. Okay, and we'll circle back to the
Yeah.
So you're doing fixed fee billing, and which I'd like to. Okay, so we'll circle back to that. Okay, that's cool. No, but you're totally right. I think this is one of the huge advantages. You can just make this whatever you want it to be. Run an accounting firm, especially in accounting, because accounting is unique in that, you know, it's low overhead, it's low capital expenditure, and if you have the know-how, you can just kind of set it up in your image and do what you want with it. And I think we are blessed in this space to kind of have that advantage. So one of the things that stood out to me in looking at kind of your background is that you spent around 3 years side hustling. Is that before you did the full time? Okay. Because I think the jump from when you start, the jump to full time, in my opinion, at least in my kind of story, was one of the scariest parts, and it is like the hardest part to run an accounting firm. Would you mind kind of talking me through how you thought through, you know, your side hustle phase, and when you thought you were ready to kind of make the jump and go full time?
Yeah, I think I learned that you're never ready. There's never a good point. There's never, you know, it's never like, oh, because when I first started, I was like, you know, oh, I'll, you know, maybe next February, maybe next August. And you're always thinking that. And at a certain point, an opportunity came to me where like it was either now or never. This was always going to be a side hustle or something that I can go into full time. And I just, that, you know, that leap of faith and said like, this has got to be it. And the growth that happened, you know, it wasn't immediate, but the growth that happened from the side hustle to now was in 1 year was significant.
Yeah, I think you put in our little notes. You since last March, you've tripled your revenue from when you were side hustling. Is that accurate?
Yeah, more than tripled.
Okay. Yeah. Well, awesome. And congrats, because that is huge.
Thanks.
And I mean, it's just super exciting. But so you were working full time at the time that you made the jump. What was your time commitment to the business? Like when you made the jump to full time, how much stuff did you have going on?
I was about probably somewhere between 10 and 20 hours a week, depending on what was going on, what projects. I had a part-time person that was already working for me that I had hired probably at the end of year one. helping me do, helping me do with some of the data stuff, keeping it so that my time was further down.
Sure. Okay. So you were working basically 50, 60-hour weeks every week in that part-time phase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you keep that
Weekends.
momentum? Sorry, go ahead.
No, and a lot of weekends. So like I would wake up I would wake up an hour early because I have young kids. So I'd wake up an hour early before everyone. I'd work an hour before, after everyone went to bed. And then on weekends, whenever I could, it'd be a couple hours here and there. So it was a grind.
Yeah, no, I believe that. And when you made the jump, did your hours stay the same? Did they go down? What was the shift there?
The hours in total went down because I didn't have that full-time work.
Right. Right.
For a while it was more lean, but I was doing more things. I was trying to get more into networking and other things that I felt I couldn't do when I was working full-time. It's very hard to network and get out and meet people. And I didn't have a network of anyone. All the people that I had known or met throughout my whole career were in the corporate world, and none of them were in this small business world. So I had to go and rebuild that whole thing. And that was a big challenge, or something that I didn't see coming, when I made the decision, but it's worked out in the long run.
Yeah, no, and that's an interesting point. I've heard this from a lot of folks. The challenge of finding clients and doing the networking when you're still in the side hustle phase, because obviously you don't, I don't know, I don't want to assume, but I would assume you don't want to be out there posting, on LinkedIn, and because you don't want your boss or your manager, right? Let's go. So can you walk me through for the folks listening to this that may still be in the side hustle phase, like what was your approach to bringing in clients when you were still working in corporate, and then how has that approach shifted as you have gone full time?
Yeah. So my approach was to connect with tax accountants. That was my approach then. I had, met 2 tax accountants early on when I started, and they were the ones feeding me a lot of clients, which was great. And then it was just telling everybody that I knew that I was doing this now, and, friends, family. And I got a number of referrals from that. Just, someone saying, oh, I know someone that needs, bookkeeping, and, just connecting us. But you're right. You can't go on, you don't want to go on LinkedIn and start posting. You don't want to, get on Facebook or other platforms, YouTube, in case, somebody else sees and, starts questioning what you're doing there versus your work.
Right. No, it's tough. And when you finally decided to jump and you were out, did your client acquisition strategy change, like the stuff you were doing to drum up new business, or have you kind of stuck to what was already working?
A mixture of both. Yeah, it stayed the same, where like my main focus is I tried a bunch of different things. So like when I first started, I didn't know what was going to work. I had 2 tax accountants that I really worked with, and leads from them kind of slowed down at that point. So I was like, all right, what else can I do? And I started to listen to like every podcast I could find on what people were doing. And I was like bouncing around to like 12 different things. And I'm like, this is, after like a month or, 6 weeks, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, okay, let me take a step back, and what worked for me. So I decided, like, let me go find more tax accountants. Let me go build out a bigger referral network. And so like I started leaning in and found more tax accountants to connect with, which was helpful and led. And then I started, actually building out, going and joining like BNI like groups, not BNI, but those groups that have
similar, like the networking.
Yeah. That took time. It wasn't like an immediate, like you join and you get clients right away. But it, you nurture those relationships, and that's kind of helped. So that was the biggest change, is joining those referral groups and learning from them, but still leaning on tax accountants. And every time I'm in a referral group, they ask, who's the person you want to meet? I was like, if you know a tax accountant, connect me with them.
Yeah. No, right. And but when we were talking to Jonathan, he said he went through, it was something ridiculous. It was like a couple hundred cold calls. And he said that his second cold call, he got a referral partner, and he was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a millionaire. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 2 calls in, it already worked. And then he went down the list, and he only got like 2 or 3 more, over a few weeks. But I do love the referral partner strategy, because you're for every one that you get a consistent source of leads that's continuing to feed you. And so your kind of target is tax only firms, which then implies that you're not doing any tax work, I'm guessing.
Correct.
Okay, so you're all books, and do you do like CFO and advisory?
Yeah, we do fractional controller and fractional CFO work as well.
Okay, okay. And so when you are reaching out to these tax firms, one, like what is your method of reach out? I mean, do you have like a system for how you reach out to tax firms as you're trying to kind of bring more referral partners into your sphere, or is it just kind of something that happens organically?
It happens more organically. I tried, the cold outreach, and
Yeah.
that was really hard. Like I got very little responses back. So
Yeah.
now what's been better for me is tapping on my network, and I get people now sending me like, hey, connect with this tax accountant. And
Yep.
sometimes like, we have a meeting, and they have someone that does bookkeeping, or they do bookkeeping, and it doesn't go anywhere. Sometimes they connect me with somebody who's like, I don't have a need for you now, but in the future. And 2 months
Sure.
later, I'm getting emails from them, referring people over. So I mean, it kind of, it depends.
Mm-hmm. And are most of yours local to you, like geographically local, or what other kind of commonalities do you use when you're bringing in referral partners?
Yeah, most are local, but
Okay.
some are not.
Okay.
And because as bookkeepers, I would say like half my clients are here in Florida, and half are spread out throughout the U.S.
Sure.
So wherever my referral partners are, like I think it works.
Yeah.
They could be anywhere, because same thing with them. I think a lot of their clients are all over the place too.
Yeah, no, it's the same for us. It's the same for us. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the things when we started, we were bookkeeping only at the beginning. But very quickly decided to get into and start doing tax. And so we did kind of similar at the beginning. I did kind of a similar thing and was reaching out to tax preparers, but I didn't have that. I don't know, maybe I could have still kept doing it once we started doing tax. But once you start doing tax, it gets a little weird. Because obviously, it's like, hey, we do bookkeeping, and they look on your website and says you do tax. So, I'm not trying to steal tax clients, but just it just the relationship gets a little weirder. So we never had a huge window where we were doing kind of the referral partner strategy. We have thought about doing. Well, let me ask you: have you done any referral? Have you sought out any kind of referral partners outside of tax accountants, like attorneys or I don't know, consultants, other types of folks that might be in your space?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried bankers and financial
Okay.
advisors, but haven't found any that are great
Yeah,
fits to refer business back. I feel like they work a lot better with tax accountants.
sure.
'Cause I have some of the tax accountants like, oh, I get a lot of referrals from this financial advisor. That's
Sure.
because they're talking about personal money with them. Sometimes
Right,
it's hard to get
right.
business. I've explored business coaches recently. So talking to different business coaches, and seeing if there's some synergies there, if they're advising their clients on, improving their finances, like maybe we could be a partner for that.
Yeah.
That's something new that I've started talking to over the last month that hasn't gone anywhere yet, but it's just starting.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, and I'd be curious because again, something that we've thought about. But I'm with you. I mean, the tax accountant and the bookkeeper slash, controllerships are like that is a natural yin and yang pairing. So why deviate if it's working? Yeah, 100%. Well, cool. So if you don't mind, I'd love to know a little bit more about your service offerings and how you package things, because you mentioned that you do fixed fee billing, which I'm all for. Huge fan of fixed fee billing, but at least in our business, it's been harder for us to nail that on the bookkeeping side than on the tax side. I feel like the tax side's pretty straightforward. At least that's been kind of our experience. The bookkeeping side, because there's so many variables that vary from client to client, and like there's such a tendency for scope creep. I'm curious, how do you approach? I'm a new client. I've come into you. What are kind of the options for how I work with you, and how do you brief that to the client?
Yeah. So we do the tiered packaging. Think of it as
Yep.
your gold, silver, and bronze. And kind of what I've learned is not to overcomplicate it and just kind of keep it simple. So the difference is like, on our bronze package, like everybody gets, it's the same thing. It's, books done by the 20th of the month. Everyone gets a P&L and balance sheet. You get a quarterly meeting with us. Um, there's probably one more thing on there that I'm forgetting. Can reach out as needed. And then, as our silver, it kind of expands from that. So it's then by the 15th of the month, we do it, we get a P&L balance sheet and cash flows. We start offering some KPI reports. And then the goal just kind of builds on that. So we kind of just, the thought was keep it simple and then just kind of add different things. And then we price based on level of complexity. We've tried different things. So like, I know some people do like number of transactions or, so what I do is, I'll get an understanding of what it look, what your QuickBooks file, what your,
Sure.
looks like. How many bank accounts do you have? Do you have any loans? And then we kind of just built a pricing based on, some form of level of complexity. And honestly, we do use ChatGPT and some of the pricing analysis on there to kind of see if we're right or in kind of in line with what we're thinking. So I use that as kind of like a barometer.
Sure. We do transaction. Well, before I say what we do, I'm curious. You said that your packages are kind of the base is the P&L and the balance sheet, and we're the same way. It's like at the core, it's like, hey, we're gonna get you your financial reports, P&L, balance sheet by this date. Okay, great. One of the issues that we've run into around scope creep and that we've been working through across several clients, especially our larger clients, is when you say, hey, we're going to send out P&L and balance sheet. Well, in order for the balance sheet to be correct, if you're not doing your APAR, somebody's got to be doing the APAR. Do you do APAR services? And if so, how do you differentiate them? Like, where do you draw the lines,
Yeah. I'll say we rarely offer to proactively monitor AP and AR. I think we have one client we do billing for and one client we help with AR, or we help with AP. But other than that, we kind of stay out of the lanes there. Now we will help like manage it and review it to the point of like, does AP aging look correct? Does AR aging look correct? Are the right buckets being hit from the financial aspect of it? And then for a few of them, like I'll send to my client, like, hey, here's your outstanding AR. Here's the things that are over 60 days that, you might want to look into, as we send our financials and they enjoy that. And to me, that's an extra screenshot. It takes 2 to 5 minutes. I don't mind doing that. If they were asking me to start, running reports and chasing it down, a lot of times, like I'm bad with it. I'll say yes to the clients just to kind of, keep them happy. And the clients I like more, I'm more inclined to do more for. So
I know that pain. I know that pain. Yeah.
And if any of my clients are listening now, they'll probably I'm probably going to get more asked, but it's just one of those things where,
Sure.
we're trying to be a little bit more of like that white glove boutique where we'll go that little extra mile for our client if it means keeping them happy instead of being just the person that cranks out, documents for them that they don't have any use for.
No, 100%. And I think that makes sense. That's a similar approach, to what we've taken. Most clients, we would kind of do the same thing, it's, hey, your AR aging, there's some stuff on here that looks weird. You may want to take a look at it, confirm these numbers or these balances with us. And then a lot of clients will take it from there. Sometimes the trick is when we run into folks that, I think really on our end, the challenge we've had is that we haven't, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but most of the times where I run into an issue with clients, the issue was expectation management at the front end. It wasn't anything that happened on the back end. And so to your point about like, I'm nice and I'm just like, oh yeah, well, like we'll take care of it. Like it's that. And around APAR, we haven't drawn internally in our business, drawn good lines around what's gold, silver, bronze or APAR. And so because of that, I find myself entering more like, oh yeah, don't worry. Like we'll take care of that, and you go down the rabbit hole. But, no, generally it sounds like you're doing something pretty similar to what we're doing. As far as your delivery dates go, so you said gold, silver, bronze. One of the differentiating factors is when you get the reports by. Do you push reports? What happens when something is waiting on the client? So let's say I'm a gold tier client and I'm supposed to have my reports out. I think you said by the 10th for gold.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I'm supposed to have my reports out by the 10th. and you've got a bunch of transactions that are like ask the client that are still waiting on client input, or you're waiting on bank statements or something. Do you still ship reports, or are you pretty strict on, hey, if it's not 100%, like we're not pushing it out?
No, we waited till it's 100%. Like I had
Okay.
that this month as we were waiting on some bank statements for a client. They were due by the 15th. They just got it to us on Friday. So now we're going through the process of like, okay, let's get this closed up, and our best chance to get it done. We're not going to give them, bad information, be like, here's what we have. That's not helpful to them either.
Right.
So
Right.
we're like, and we'll let them know like, hey, we followed up with you several times. We still need these to close this out. And then once we send it, we put like a little note together with some, what we call like little financial highlights of things going on.
Mhm.
And within that email, we'll send it out. We'll just say, hey, we know this one was a little, past the delivery date, it was due to some delays on both ends, and, call it a day, or we just won't even mention it. And, if, unless it's necessary.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Yeah, we do the same thing. I've talked to some folks who have said they'll ship just to keep the battle rhythm or the kind of rhythm going, where they'll ship something, and then just highlight like, hey, this is incomplete pending, answers to these questions. But for me, I kind of like the forcing function of like the project's not closed until it's closed. You know what I mean? Like we're not sending multiple sets. So yeah, no, I'm with you there. Do you mentioned earlier that you have a team member that's helping you out now? Is that?
Yeah, I have 3 team members now.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so you've got 3 team members. How many did you have when you went full time?
1.
Okay, got it. So when you went full time, you had the 1, and since then, in the past year, you've added 2 more. Would you mind walking me through like the progression of who you brought onto the team, both in terms of like what you were looking for with each role, and then also like what specific role you decided to hire and kind of the order you did it in?
Yeah. So I had 1 part-time person that was helping me out, and they stayed part-time, only doing about 10 hours a week. And then as September rolled around last year, I'm like, I need some help. There's more things going on. I had more of a managerial role before this, and so
Yeah.
me getting in and doing all the QuickBooks work wasn't my idea of fun. So I was like, I need to hire somebody with some experience. And so I did a lot of those like online courses and try to see what's best. And I looked at hiring overseas. So
Mhm.
I went and hired somebody in the Philippines.
Mhm.
And they started out as a part-time role doing about, I want to say like 20 hours a week for the first couple of months. And then in January, I brought them on full time as we grew. And then they had a friend that was able to help out. So I brought her on to do, we've got a lot of cleanup projects recently. So they're helping out with, all these cleanup projects, and then some monthly clients. And hopefully as we convert those cleanups to monthlies, she'll take over some of those roles as well. Both of them are CPAs with over, 8 years of experience. So just kind of looking for that higher level, like, I didn't want, to be there answering a bunch of questions. It's more of like, here's what I need you to do. Go solve it and come to me with solutions instead of problems.
No, 100%. I think that's I want to go a little deeper on that if that's okay.
Yeah.
Your first team member, the 10-hour part-time, were they bookkeeping, technical work, accounting, or were they admin, following up with clients, or a mix? Like what was that person doing, or what is that person doing?
They're doing basic categorization and reconciliations of
Okay.
transactions, nothing client facing.
Okay, gotcha. And so first person is doing block and tackling, categorizations, and then the 2 team members you've added since then are experienced accountants overseas. Do you still do all your review, or do you have one of your team members doing review?
I'm still doing all the review, but realizing now that one of those team members are going to have to start taking that over soon, because
It's bottlenecking on you.
It's bottlenecking. It's getting too much, and I'm the problem.
Right.
So
that's how it goes. I'm with you.
I think that's one of the things we're going to start reassessing for next month of the following, like how we can start getting some of those off my plate.
Sure.
So that we're not sitting here and having things from, that need to go out that aren't going out because it's me.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And then those team members, the offshore team members they're both in the Philippines. They're both
Correct.
Philippines based. Okay. Did you hire direct or did you go through a BPO? What was your strategy for picking up those team members?
No, I hired direct. I went through and did it on my, I went through and put up a job posting online. I got 200 applications and whittled it down to 20 or 30 that actually fit what I was looking for, and then did 5 or 6 interviews and, found somebody that worked out very well.
So you posted it direct to a job board like yourself. You didn't go through any.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. In my last role, I probably hired like 15 people. I built an apartment from scratch. So like I kind of had experience and I felt like I can handle this. It was less daunting than if I had never hired anybody or gone through that process ever before. I feel like I would have been, a lot more like deer in the headlights. But since I've gone through it, in several different iterations, it was at least easier.
That makes a lot of sense. We recently hired our first team member in the Philippines, and we used Team Up, which is one of those kind of like the headhunter type or and they were great. They really were. And it was my first time hiring what I call cold hiring. So like hiring somebody that wasn't already kind of in my circle. Like I didn't already have a personal connection to. And so I had a great experience working with them and would highly recommend working with them, honestly, for anybody interested in looking for some help. But I'm kind of with you, is like on the next one, now that we've done it, on the next one, that's something we've talked about, is like, I think we could do this ourselves and just post the job and go through the screening and kind of do it internally. Did you use what's the big job board? It's just jobs dot.
It's like onlinejobs.ph. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big one. Okay, and you just post it. Is that the only place you posted, or were you also posting on? Okay, and you had no shortage of applicants. Yeah.
No, definitely no shortage of applicants, and I gave them a little like to-do list of like, give me a video, ask for specific things, and anyone that didn't follow exactly what I was asking for, like,
it makes it easy to weed them out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things we were and I'm curious your thoughts on this, but one of the things we were blown away with was just the quality. Granted, the way we did it, they'd already been screened by the time, like we did 4 interviews, so we didn't have to do the screening portion of it. So I'm curious, kind of, you've seen that screening, what that looks like, but we were very impressed with the quality of the applicants that we got. I don't know if that's been kind of your experience, is like.
Yeah, no, it definitely was blown away by a lot of them. Some of them during the screening process weren't fits exactly what we were looking for, so it made it a little bit more, easier to move, in a certain direction. But no, the quality of applicants is really good. And somebody said it to me, is you're not hiring, lower quality. You're hiring at a lower price point, but you're definitely getting, as good, if not better, than some of the applicants here in the States.
Sure. And had you worked with offshore accountants before in your corporate role, or was it all US based there?
It was all US based for like our team members. Like we dealt with like other teams that had offshore, like.
Gotcha. But they weren't organic to you.
No.
Gotcha. And so how did you manage your IT? Because are you hiring that out? Are you doing it DIYing? Like, how have you tackled that?
Yeah, more DIYing right now. We're keeping it, haven't had a great process for it. It's one of the things that we have to figure out. Mm-hmm. Right now, like I manage everything through me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. And you don't have tax software or anything that you have to host,
no.
I'm guessing. So yeah, nothing's hosted. Okay. That makes it a lot easier, I'm sure. But yeah, that was one of the hurdles for us as well. And I'm lucky that teammate Matt has an IT background, so he kind of handles all of that. But I was curious if you have a plug there. It's super cool. one of the things that you said that resonated with me is you mentioned that the two folks that you hired have like 8 years experience, and you hired for experience and not for the kind of entry level. And I won't speak. I'm curious if you found that's exactly what we did. And we didn't have that plan going into it. Our plan going into it was to hire kind of entry level, but we quickly realized that what it cost us, the difference in cost to us, to the firm, between hiring a more entry level person and a more experienced person was, in my opinion, way smaller. One, than it would be here in the US, and then two, than my perceived cost of doing like the training. Like it just made so much more sense to like we can afford to hire somebody who's experienced and plug and play and not have to deal with developmental, and then we can focus more on hiring developmental hires here, locally. I'm curious if that was kind of your experience, if you found that the cost difference to you was significant.
I didn't even
certain levels of experience.
I didn't even look at the cost difference right away. What I started with is I had hired some people on Upwork to help me with projects that were at that lower level. And I was like, the amount of time and effort that it was taking me to get them where they needed to be wasn't there. Right. So I was like, immediately like, okay, I need to hire somebody more experienced to get what it is that I need. And to me, like at that point, the cost wasn't a factor.
Right.
And the thought is eventually to then bring in a lower person to work under them. To kind 100%. Of help, nurture them so that they can grow, and then give them the opportunity to have, someone that they can offload some of their work to as we grow too.
Yeah, no, and I think it is one of the unique, there's obviously some limitations to the offshore thing, but so far, I think one of the big advantages that we're seeing is exactly that, is that we can, starting out relatively early on in the firm journey, we can afford to bring in just higher levels of talent that we can then grow with, versus having to devote the time and energy to doing the training upfront. Because we're the same way. As like our team member that we brought on has management experience, has years of accounting experience, and is already ready. I mean, we're not at the point, like, we need to catch up, but I mean, she could be managing a team of her own today if she needed to. And so it's just good. It's nice. Basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is we were able to solve like 2 or 3 levels of constraint ahead of time. Right. Yeah. So it's not like we're hitting the immediate constraint and then in 6 months we're gonna have a new constraint. Like, I like the fact that at a very reasonable price point, we were able to just knock out, like, that's not going to be a limiting factor for us for the next 2-3 years. Right.
And somebody told me that when I was doing this, hire not for the level that you need right now, but hire for where you need to be in the future. And that will save you, because if you're always hiring for right now, you're always kind of a little bit behind.
Right. No, I think that's so wise. And we were just lucky. I mean, we just stumbled into it. And as we were doing the interviews, we were like, this makes way more sense than that. But that wasn't, we were planning on doing entry level. And it just so happened that these team up folks were like, hey, why don't we just give you a couple just to show you what's out there, And we're like, oh, they were right. But anyway, no, that's super cool. Is your long-term vision, as far as hiring goes, to continue hiring in the Philippines? Do you plan to eventually start hiring in the US? Like, how do you think through as you map out, or are you done hiring for a while? Like, how do you think through your growth plan from a team perspective?
I think for now, to keep hiring in the Philippines, just having a great experience so far with the individuals that we've brought on. So, I think it's a good market out there. I mean, it's cost effective in just getting a great quality of employees. Well, I'll probably at some point make more hires here in the US, but not right now.
Sure.
As I think through the plan, like, trying to figure out what we need for the rest of this year as we grow, and take it from there.
Yeah. Makes sense. And sorry, one more question, and we can kind of change topics, but one more question on that is, how do you handle the time difference? So we're also East Coast, and right now with daylight savings, I think we're 12 hours offset. Do you do a 3-hour overlap? How do you
How do you approach the time difference?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge, a thing that I didn't think through in the beginning. When I brought my person on as part-time, I was like, let's overlap a little bit in the morning, and, other than that, like, feel free to work whenever you feel like it.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what stayed, which is nice because, a lot of times I'll get, I'll ask questions at night, and then when I wake up in the morning, like there's questions
there.
of things. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's like
and
Christmas.
done.
Like it's all there, right?
Yeah. So everything's done, or like you have answers. So it's good instead of having to wait. But then there are times where like the overlap doesn't always overlap. So like, you need to ask a question now and it doesn't get answered till tomorrow. That's the one challenge I have. And one of my clients actually works with some of has some VAs in the Philippines, and their requirement is that they work US hours. So maybe that's something to consider in the future, is like having them work, a certain amount of hours, during this time. I think might be something that I'll look for in the future. But again, if it's not a huge issue right now, so I'm not pushing anything.
Gotcha. Okay. And do you have any kind of like weekly or bi-weekly, any battle rhythm kind of type meetings where the whole team is together at once, or do you just basically use the overlap windows and
use the overlap windows? Like usually I meet with the team members individually because everyone's just working on different things, that there hasn't been a need to get everybody on for one thing of what everyone's working on or need a reshift work. I've thought about it, of like having, but I don't want to waste everyone's time by just like, hey, sit in this team meeting for an hour as we talk about different things. Like it makes more sense to do, 3 15-minute meetings with everyone instead of one, just to be more efficient.
Sure. No, that does make sense. Okay. Well, something else that you mentioned that is a problem that we're dealing with right now is you mentioned cleanups, and I mean, I guess it's that time of year for cleanups. So cleanups for us I was traditionally very pro cleanup, because basically the way I approach cleanups is, hey, we're able to collect a significant chunk of, we build cleanups 50% up front, 50% on completion typically. Same. And so we're able to, just out of curiosity, do you use Ignition or Anchor or
Anchor?
Okay. So yeah, so we do. Okay. So it sounds like we're doing the same thing. And we would say, hey, we're going to build 50% up front, and we're able to lock in a relatively significant, right? Relative to what a monthly bookkeeping fee would be, significant amount of revenue in kind of one fell swoop. But the challenge we've run into is, as we've scaled, the cleanups have kind of piled up, and it takes longer. Most new clients that come to us need some level of cleanup.
Yep.
And so it takes longer to burn through that cleanup and kind of trudge through it to get them back to caught up. And so we're always, if we hire the capacity to burn through the cleanups, then we don't have the revenue on the back end. You know what I'm saying? Because we're collecting all this money up front. Yep. We need more capacity. But then once we've stabilized the client, it's back down to kind of that monthly fee. And so I'm curious kind of how you view pricing of cleanups, and if that's a problem that you've had in your firm, or if that hasn't been a limiting factor for you guys.
No, it's definitely something that we've kind of realized. I've started setting like realistic expectations with clients, and basically saying, from when you sign, it's going to be 90 days of us figuring each other out. So it's going to be, just because we sign a contract now doesn't mean that, the 20th of next month, you're going to get your financial statements on time. Like, there's going to be some cleanup, right. There's some work involved. Like, we want to get that sorted out first, and just know that the first 90 days are going to be a little bit, us getting set up. And I think once I started doing that, it took a little bit of stress off of me of like trying to make that, and nobody has, pushed back at all on that. So that's been one thing that's helped us get that cleanup piece. The other aspect, you're right, is I brought on somebody now that has extra hours that I can kind of just throw at, here, this cleanup project. Yeah. Do you mind doing an extra couple hours this few weeks? And that's one of the things that's been helpful, is all they do, not all, but a lot of what they do is cleanup. And, they have flexibility from 10 to 20 so like their flexibility goes up. and allows us to take on some more cleanup work. And then some of it I end up doing myself just because it's either could be very short or it can be very complex, which, and then I want to overburden the team. So if I have the capacity, some of it I will do myself.
Sure. And if you don't mind me asking, how far booked out, what's your typical turnaround time for cleanups?
It depends.
I'm sure
a lot of it.
varies.
Yeah, it varies. Like, honestly, this is the most cleanup I ever have. We have like 6 active cleanups, like, that are not tied to monthly. Just by the time of the year. Not tied to monthly.
When you say not tied to monthly, you mean they're not monthly clients?
No.
Okay, they're just kind of one-offs.
They're one-off that we hope to turn into monthly, but like I have 2 that they need 24 and 25. And so we're actively working on those. For those, like we said, like, hey, if we get everything, it'll be between 3 and 4 weeks to get each year done. So if you get us everything, which, as you know, it's very rare you get everything on time.
Right, because the folks that need the cleanups they need it because they didn't have everything ready to go to begin with. Right. No, 100%. 100%.
So a lot of it is just us trying to figure out what that timeline is that they need it by, and saying like, hey, you need it by April 1st. You get us all the stuff. We'll work on getting it done by April 1st. And then if there's a time sensitive, and we increase the price to reflect that. I mean, I had one when I first started off year 1 that they needed a cleanup, and they come to me, and it was April like 7th, and they're like, oh, and we need this done by the 15th so we can make estimated tax. And I was like, okay, let's see what we can do. And we got it done.
Oh my God. Hardcore.
Yeah, we got it done in 1 week. It was nuts, but we got it done. I should have charged a lot more, but
Yeah, we live and learn. Yeah. No, that's awesome. We've got 7 open cleanups right now. And but the thing is, our cleanups vary in size from, like, we've got a couple that are tiny. I mean, like husband and wife partnership kind of things, and they're just itty bitty. And then we have a couple that are, for us, Matt, like, pretty big. And so the cleanups is kind of the biggest challenge we have right now on the bookkeeping side. Is like, we signed 2 cleanups that I could probably hire somebody just to burn through those 2 cleanups. But then it's like, well, but what do I do on the back end? And then my hesitation is like, I don't want to have to go cleanup hunting. You know what I mean? Because, like, I can get that revenue by picking up cleanups, but then those cleanups aren't always the ideal monthly client.
Right. Yeah. That's where it becomes a challenge, because usually they need cleanups because they weren't wanting to do monthly, right. Or and some of mine, they're like, oh, we only just need this cleaned up, and maybe we'll see each other next year. And I'm like, oh, great. So every year it's going to be.
So how do you price that then? Because I used to price cleanups cheaper, and I used to basically do, hey, this is what a month of bookkeeping would cost. You need 12 months times 12. And then I might say, okay, but we'll knock it down 20% because we're doing it in bulk. And I've moved away from that, and I've moved to, like, either full price, or even sometimes if I get the vibe the client's going to be real messy, we might charge like a cleanup premium. How have you approached that? Because that's what we want to avoid, right? It's like, I don't want you coming to me every year during tax season and saying, here's my shoebox,
Yeah, if it's going to be a monthly client, and this is that avenue of like, hey, we're going to do the cleanup and then we're going to get you a monthly, I'm more flexible in the pricing. And a lot of times we'll start with the same thing. Here's monthly. We'll do 10 months. I don't know why, but that's what I chose, 10 months.
Yeah.
And we'll charge you for that. And we usually spell that out in the engagement letter, showing them that we're giving them a discount for this. Sure. If it's not that case, we still do it kind of similar, the pricing, and sometimes we'll go up, but a lot of times then they become price sensitive, and there's a reason, and so, like, they hold back. So I haven't found a great method of trying that extra premium. Okay, because if you think about it, a lot of times, like, at least like me, I'll do the calculation. I was like, well, we're still making great margin on this no matter what. On some of them, like if we're still making good margin, I was like, it makes sense to do it versus not do
Right.
it. So like,
Right.
have the revenue then, go super high and not do
And
it.
lose it. No, 100%, 100%. That's so true. And for us, like our bookkeeping side of the business hit capacity, and so like we are now like 4 or 5 months booked out, and really that was a factor of like a handful of big cleanups that we got, and I think we can clear it out faster, but that gave us like that was like the first time since starting where I felt like we had kind of the upper hand in when new clients came in, where I basically wasn't like, I need the revenue or I want to capture the revenue. But as we worked through that backlog and we're back to having capacity, it's like, I'm with you. It's like, man, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot and be doing a cleanup for you every year. But at the same time, if it meets my target, my target pricing, it's like, why would I? Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough. There's no clear answer.
No, you just have to do whatever you think is right at the right time. And maybe, this year that makes sense. And then next year, like, we can only do it if you're monthly.
Yeah, no, and that's very true too. Is like the answer today doesn't have to be the answer tomorrow. Because I'm a big like systems person, and I try to come up with systems and rules and make everything like a repeatable kind of thing. But the truth of like so much of pricing and the client relationship it depends. It depends on where we're at. It depends on where the client's at. It depends on where we're at. No, that's very true. No, it's cool. What about, I mean, so you've tripled the business in the last 12 months, which is huge. Again, congrats. That's big. Where do you see yourself going here in the next 12? Is there anything you're working on now what are the big priorities that you're working on, and where are we going in the next year?
Yeah, it's continuing the growth. So, to get where I don't know where it is that we end up, hitting that stabilization, but like just to keep growing, I feel like I've scratched the surface on a lot of this stuff in the networking, in the meeting. And I think, a lot of those are these long-term plays that, take a while to mature and come out. So, I'm hoping to nurture more of that and just keep the growth going, add some more team members. Our goal for this year is to add an admin, by the end of Q2. That's one. We want to add another, staff bookkeeper, hopefully by Q3 or 4, just to keep adding as we get more clients, we look to add those pieces. I don't want to hire early or late. So I'm just trying to find out that balance of, I don't want someone sitting around like I don't have anything to do. And then I don't want to the point where my team's over capacity. We don't, and they have too much on their plate.
No, 100%.
And then we just have to hire someone to get them in.
Yeah, so that's so true. So you think in the next year, admin and plus one accounting staff member. So plus, that would be the goal, unless we grow faster and we need more. Sure.
But yeah, that's the goal.
Sure. No, that's super cool. Well, it's super exciting. What about is there anything else aside from just a revenue and team size perspective in the next year? Is there anything you're thinking about doing as far as client acquisition, or like what kind of clients are we looking for? What size clients are we looking for? Or are you taking pretty much anything that meets your pricing metrics?
It's anything. I've thought about niching and getting into specifics, and nothing's really kind of made sense. So what I'm targeting is like any client that kind of meets the criteria of what we feel a good client could be. I mean, our clients currently now are in all different industries and various, backgrounds. So like it doesn't really matter. Our sweet spot is clients that are in the 1 million to 3 million range. We have some from 500,000 up to 10 million. So it's just all different things that fit. And some of the ones that are closer to 10 million are much easier than the ones that are closer to 500,000.
Yep. We've learned that one too. Yeah.
So
we've learned that one too.
It's not as big of a driving factor. One of the things that I'm trying to push more into is your professional services, your lawyers, your doctors, your architects, like those, like that they seem like they're good clients. They have good overhead. They're not as cost sensitive like some of the other industries. Like people become very cost sensitive and they think of bookkeeping as a nice to have instead of a must, and they don't always see the value in the things that we provide. So trying to focus now on shifting from, hey, we do categorization and reconciliations to like, here's the value you get by working with us, and trying to be that more, you know, boutique, like I said, white glove service that kind of allows people to pay our prices.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I have so many things. I've got so many things I want to ask, but we're kind of at time, so we'll just have to do another one.
Sure.
If it's all right with you, let's pivot to our closeout questions. We call them our
final 5.
and it's the same 5 questions we
Let's
ask every guest that comes on. What is your favorite business book?
You know, it's changed. And I didn't read a business book until about 2 years ago. So, but the one that I just recently read, which resonated the most with me, was Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. And it just did a good job of going through and, you know, at the point where I'm at right now, what are all the things that you can do to offload and delegate to help you have more free time and to help build your team and give them that confidence. And to me, that there was nothing more important in that moment than reading that book, because it spoke to what I was going through.
That it's so true. Like that the quality of a book, like there are books that are great, but then as important as the book is when it hits you, of like you being in the right window of life or of your business, or right. Like some books hit you at just the right time where you're like, yes. No, it's very true. But I appreciate that plug, because I have not read that, and I'm gonna add that to my list. So thank you for sharing that one. What about within your business? If you had to pick one system or tool that you wouldn't want to run your firm without, what would it be?
You know, it's got to be Anchor. Having an automatic billing system saves me so much time. You know, I don't have to chase anymore. I don't have to go in at the first of the month and create all these invoices like I was doing in QuickBooks. So it's just kind of one of those things, you set it and forget it, and you know, money shows up in the account. It looks nice, and you know, it makes it easier for the clients. You know, are there some things that happen back and forth? Sure, but for the most part, it works really well.
Sure. Yeah, and like I said, we use Ignition, and I'm with you. I can't imagine like going back to invoicing and QuickBooks. Like gross. Yeah, it would just be gross. And we didn't get the chance to ask you, but what's your? Are you using a project management system?
Financial Sense.
Okay, same.
Yeah.
And damn, because whole lost opportunity there. I there's a million things I could talk about with Financial Sense, but okay, yeah,
that was the second. That was the second one. If it wasn't Anchor, it would have been Financial Sense is the tool we can't live without, because having that project management and everything in there, like it drives everything we do. So it's very important too.
Same. Okay. What about in the coming year coming year, we're already a quarter of the way through. For 2026, do you have any events or conferences that you're planning on going to?
I believe I'm going to try and go to Scaling New Heights this year.
Okay. Yeah, we're trying to lock in what we want to go to and what we want to do, and so it's nice hearing different people.
Have you figured out what? Do you have any?
No, I will. Admittedly, like this is something that I talked about. Okay, like in February, I'm like, okay, we need to. I have like this map of the year, and I'm like, we need to put some stuff on here. And we've just been grinding with busy season, and we haven't done it. But I'm gonna pick my head up here in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and take a breath of fresh air and figure out, okay, like we need to lock in what we want to go to. If is Scaling New, is that in Charlotte this year? Or am I totally
thought it was
off?
Orlando.
Okay, you're probably right. I'm probably wrong, because if it's in Charlotte, then I definitely go. But we're in North Carolina, but I'm probably thinking of something else. Okay. Well, cool. Have you gone to any in the past that you've enjoyed, or will this be your first year doing it?
This will be my first year in this realm. I did a lot of internal audit ones when I was an internal audit, going to those conferences, and got a lot out of it. So I've been to conferences, just not in this direction.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Well, number 4, what are your hobbies? What do you do in your free time when you're not doing books?
Yeah. So I recently picked up playing ice hockey.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So I started doing that. And been playing in a men's league for the last like 6 or 8 months. So that's been a lot of fun. That's been a lot of a hobby of mine, and a couple of my buddies, we do it, and we go out on, a couple days through the week and practice and go to the roller rink and just mess around. So that's been a good hobby for me. Other than that, it's just, stuff with the kids, sports. We're a big sports family, so we watch a lot of sports.
What age range are your kids?
9, 6, and 3.
Okay. I've got 4, 2, and baby. So I'm catching up. I'm a few years back. I'm looking forward to the 9s. That's a good spread. You're out of diapers, or you're about to be out of diapers.
We're at the end of potty training right now. Yeah, we're almost there. We have like hopefully another month or 2.
Oh yeah, I'm envious of that. That's someday. So, well, don't want to wish it away, but it won't be the worst thing in the world when we're done with diapers. So very cool.
No.
What about where can people go to connect with you or find out more about you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Find me on there, Perry Mayer. And then my website, vitalacct.com, or just search Vital Accounting Services and we come up. We do have an Instagram and Facebook, but I'll be honest with you, we rarely use them, so probably not the best method.
No, I'm with you there. To me, like the firm social media pages is like just something to show a pulse. So if somebody Googles us, like they're like, okay, this is real and right. But I'm with you. It's not my go-to. So okay, got you on the LinkedIn and on the website. Well, perfect. And we can link the website in the show notes below. So great. Well, Perry, I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, there's a million other things. We could have talked just an hour on financial sense.
I'm sure
I should have led with that, but yeah, we'll just have to touch base offline. So I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on. It's great chatting with you, and I'll be looking forward to keeping up with you. Coming out of busy season when I get some headspace back and I'm back out of the weeds. So anyway, I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right. Well, that does it for episode 13 with Perry Mayer. Perry, thanks again for taking the time to come on and be a guest on the show. We really appreciate you coming on and had a blast chatting with you. What'd you think, Matt?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting episode. He was very open about all of his processes. We kind of, like you talked about in the beginning and during the episode, could have gone a bunch of different ways, but like with a lot of these guests, at some point maybe we'll have to have them back on. Yeah, well, the deeper dive. And we should give a shout out again to Jonathan from Bullseye Bookkeeping who connected us with Perry. It's cool that we're starting to get a little bit of that kind of podcast. The network. The network's starting
effect.
to take a little bit. No, it is, and more than the podcast. It's about the friends we make along the way, right, Matt? Matt nodded. Sure. Matt nodded. Okay. Yeah. But no, seriously, many thanks to Perry and thanks to Jonathan for connecting us. And again, we'll link Jonathan's episode 9, in the show notes below. All right. Well, I don't have anything else unless you do. Just that if anybody listening, give the podcast a share if you enjoyed it, and anybody that is interested in the show or knows anybody that would be interested in the show, our guest application is linked in the show notes below. Well, sweet. Yeah, and if you or somebody would like to be a guest, we'd love to have you. Aside from that, we appreciate you guys taking the time to give this a listen, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks for the next one.